Welcome to Brothers Talking. I'm Israel.
And I'm Eli.
Today's joining us is Jacqueline Thomas, communications and media professional, founder of Lady Leaders and Miss Arizona 2019. Jacqueline, welcome to the show.
Thank you so much for having me. Happy to be here.
We are excited to have you, and we just appreciate you making the time.
Oh, of course. Thank you so much for asking me.
Absolutely. We want to talk about your background a bit, get into Miss America, and of course, Lady Leaders. But we want to start from the beginning. So can you tell us what your childhood was like?
I was born and raised in Phoenix, Arizona, and I lived in the same house, grew up in the cul-de-sac, took piano lessons from a very young age. I am the oldest of four. I have three younger brothers, two of whom are now working for our family business. My dad is a small business owner, and my mother was an educator for 10 years before she had me, the firstborn. And that really set the stage for what my childhood was like. We were actually homeschooled for half the portion of our life since my mother was an educator. And then I went to private Christian schools in Arizona for the rest of my education. But it was amazing growing up in Arizona. The economy was great. My dad worked for himself, so he was able to be there at all of our extracurricular activities, our sports games, piano recitals, things like that. He was very involved in the homeschooling world as well when my brothers and I were younger and we were homeschooled. And it was a very fun, patriotic family environment to grow up in.
That sounds like the American dream right there.
Yeah, it really does.
Right?
Now having the two parents in the home, we know as we can look at, the statistics and just families around us, that plays a huge role in the success of not only the upbringing, but the road that you take in your career, in your personal life. Can you think back to some singular moments where, like your parents, you mentioned your dad made the time to be there at your sports events and your recitals. Can you think back to some events where maybe that shaped who you are today and what you became?
I know specifically because the piano has been such a big part of my life. I took piano lessons from the age of 4 to 21, and my dad was very, very involved in that. I know there were times when I was younger when I really didn't want to practice. It was after school, and all the cul-de-sac kids were playing outside, and we had to practice anywhere from half an hour to an hour, depending on how old we were and where we were in the piano theory curriculum. And my dad was always a huge advocate of it, saying how good it is for us to learn, for the discipline, for the tenacity that it teaches. And my piano teacher was such an excellent mentor, not just teaching us about piano, but also about life. And at one period of my life, when we were teenagers, we had piano lessons at 6 a.m. in the morning. And my dad would wake us up. He would make us breakfast. We would go to piano lessons before school, and then we would get something fun like a latte from Starbucks. And that was really what my teenage years looked like. And my dad was always there, as well as my mother, for every piano recital, recording our recitals, trying to figure out uploading them to YouTube back in the day. And he just was there to make sure that we were getting the most out of our childhood, and he was pouring back into us. And like you said, you mentioned it's so important to have two parents in the house. And I think that everyone can look back at their childhood or their parents and see where there are areas to improve. But even with my parents' shortcomings, which all parents have, I always thought that my parents did such a better job at raising us and being involved than any one of my peers.
Hmm.
That's so amazing. And you can tell just the difference that it's made in your life. You've seen you succeed and seen you making some really great decisions in your leadership. And we'll get to that in a minute with Lady Leaders. But, listeners and audience, if you're a parent, make those investments in your children, make those investments in your teenagers and young adults, because it makes a difference.
Absolutely.
Let's talk about the Miss America organization for a bit.
Yeah, there's a lot of different things to partnership with. There's a lot of different organizations to take part in. Why choose that one?
So I grew up watching Miss America on TV with my mom, and we made it a thing every year that I could remember. But I never knew as a young teenager that it was something that I could personally be involved with. So I would look up to these women that were gracing the stage with their poise, their speaking abilities, and how put together they were. They could answer any hard political current event question that was thrown at them. And I looked up to them as role models. And something that really lacked during my high school years specifically were female role models, which we can get into more with lady leaders. But when I graduated from high school, I was on Facebook and I saw that a girl I had went to junior high with had just won Miss Arizona 2013. And I looked at her life and I looked at my life and I thought, well, there's no reason why I couldn't do that. Our backgrounds are so similar. We went to so many of the same schools. We were from the initial same community in a suburb of Phoenix. And I thought, that's what I want to do. That's what I'm going to put my goals and my sights at next. And I reached out to her. She put me in contact with the right people. A couple weeks later, won my first local with the Miss America organization. And 8 years later, the rest is history.
Nice. That is awesome. Well, looking back, would you have done anything different?
So I competed for Miss Arizona over a span of 6 years. I was 18 years old when I won my first local, and I was thrilled, but I really had no idea what I was getting myself into. And that first year that I competed at state, my eyes were opened as to what this organization really was about, what's expected of you, what a good Miss Arizona looks like. So I knew from the start that I had a lot of work to do, but I was so passionate about it. Aside from my school and internships I was doing at the time, my involvement in the Miss Arizona organization was my top priority for the better part of those 6 years. And I competed year after year. I only took 1 year off in the summer of 2016 to do an internship here in Washington, D.C. And ironically enough, the Miss America orientation was held in Washington, D.C. that summer. And the Miss Arizona directors, they reached out to me to ask them to help set up meetings with the then Miss Arizona, with our Arizona representatives and senators, because they didn't know how to do that. And I was here on the ground in DC, and I was able to set up those meetings as well as attend the meetings with the National Board of Directors and the then Miss Arizona and go to a Miss America reception, which is an anomaly because typically if you're not a state title holder or somewhere high up in the organization, you don't get to attend that. And that was the summer that I decided my goal is either to age out, which at that time was 25, or win. There was I had no other options. And I went back to Arizona, graduated from undergrad that year, and I only made the top 10 that year, but it was like momentum. I remember the moment I walked off the stage, I thought, okay, what do I need to start preparing for now to be able to come back and do better next year? And the biggest thing for that was getting good coaching, getting good mentors, and also really, really giving back to the community and thinking about the being of what Miss Arizona does. So in the summer of 2019, I was blessed to win the title of Miss Arizona. And like I said, for that, the rest is history. So I will say I wouldn't have changed anything about the 6 years that it took me to win Miss Arizona, because I know that I wouldn't have been ready and prepared to do the job well with all that training and that experience. I was actually second runner-up in 2018, and I thought that I was ready, but I was still trying to convince myself that who I was and what I had to offer was enough, rather than just believing that I was enough with or without the crown, and I could do everything that I wanted in the community and at Arizona, whether I won the title or not. Now, my year as Miss Arizona was definitely interesting because it was the beginning of the Miss America 2.0 era, which was a branding change that removed the swimsuit competition. They removed our evening gown competition at the national level, and we were basically a guinea pig year for the Miss America organization, which that happens a lot of times at the national level. Typically, the states are they're very much the same, regardless of what's happening at the national level, but every Miss America experience is a little bit different. So me and my class, we just had to go with the flow and run with the punches. And I really loved the Miss America 2.0 branding with what it was portraying. So Miss America is a job. It's not just a title holder. You're not just a queen. It's not about you. It's about giving back to your community. And also it's preparing you for the next great adventure in your life, which is what one of my favorite CEOs of the Miss America organization always used to say. Miss America is a launching pad to set you on the path to the next great thing. It's not the end. It's only the beginning.
Very nice. And it's impactful to hear the impact that the mentors and coaching's had on you. Because I think a lot of people think, oh, if I want to achieve something great, I have to do it by myself. I have to do it, through my own grit, my own work. And while that is true, you have to put in grit. You do have to put in work. It does take investment. To your point, it has to sometimes become the most important thing, especially if you're going to do something that has a long-term value in your life. But it's so necessary to have mentors, good people who can help you along with, like you said, coachings, develop skills, kind of get you where you need to be so you can accomplish those goals. It's something that I think is often overlooked, but very necessary.
What would you say to a young woman who's looking for mentorship, leadership development, looking to serve in her community? Would you say Miss America organization would be a good place to start?
Absolutely. The Miss America organization is the first organization that comes to mind because of how long they've been in the communities. This year, Miss America is celebrating its 100th anniversary, and also how many different contacts they have to women all across the United States. One thing that I loved about my Miss America class is that everyone brought something different to the table. The girl who won Miss America from my class was from Virginia. She did a science experiment for her talent, and she's currently in her second year of pharmacy school. And her thing was showing that Miss America doesn't have to be just a beauty queen. You can be a nerd, you can be a scientist, you can be a lawyer, you can be a nurse. And with that new branding of Miss America 2.0 and showing that whatever you have to bring to the table, whatever your background is, this is for you and you can make a difference. And I also think about all the women that the Miss America organization is connected to. You can just reach out to one person per state in a local or state Miss America organization, and they'll be able to connect you with top people in your field in that state and help you get almost wherever you want to go.
And that can be pretty impactful, especially with like the STEM fields, like you said, like taking part in like science, technology. That could be a really big foot in the door, depending on where you want to go. That's pretty powerful.
Oh, definitely.
Yeah, that is a great inspiration to anyone that's looking for a future career or even just giving back to the community. You have a really distinct distinction, if you would, of serving as the youngest deputy press secretary for U.S. Customs and Border Protection. What kind of barriers did that come with, and what did Miss America prepare you for in that field?
The biggest barrier that I ran into when I moved from Arizona to Washington, D.C. last year was communicating how my skills as Miss Arizona and what I learned competing in the Miss America organization over the last 7 years translated into the professional world. That was really the biggest hurdle. I know when I moved to Washington, D.C., I rewrote my resume in the first month I was here at least 10 different times. I had coffees with different people to be able to figure out the buzzwords that I need to put on the resume and know how to talk about to get my foot in the door, to just get my resume in front of someone that could do something, that could give you a job or help you or something. And that also plays into parts of Lady Leaders. But that was the biggest challenge. And once I cracked the code, as I like to call it, for what my resume needed to be, I got the job within a month. And DC is all about who you know. It's a little less what you know, but in my experience has been the best combination of both. And when you combine your skills with your passion for a cause that you're willing to work for, you have the perfect storm.
Well, and I like the tie into Lady Leaders, because that's also something we wanted to kind of pick your brain on. For those who are the uninitiated, so to speak, what is Lady Leaders? What do you do? What do you hope to achieve? Kind of like, what's your mission in that platform?
Lady Leaders is a lifestyle movement connecting women and girls to the tools, resources, and mentors that they need to be successful and achieve their next goal in life. I thought of lady leaders when I was a junior and senior in high school because I went to a very small high school and there were no female role models. And my high school really catered to the boys. That was just the culture that it was. All of our faculty and top administrators, from student body president to president of the junior high classes, all the way up to the principal, they were all men. At that time, they didn't allow any women in leadership positions. And I recognized from that point that there was a huge gap in training the young women of the school, because there were plenty of us that wanted to be more involved in things like student government and the extracurricular activities and managing sports teams. And we just weren't allowed to participate. I wanted to be student body president of my high school, and the highest leadership position as a female I was afforded was secretary. And you would think this was something that would be like decades ago, like, right? No, this was literally in the last 10 years of life. So really interesting. But from that point forward, when I graduated from high school, I set out to make sure that no girl ever felt like I did before, like there wasn't role models, like they didn't have leadership opportunities, and that there weren't resources to help them get where they were going. And that's also why I thought that partnering with a Miss America organization was the perfect opportunity to further lady leaders and to pursue the goals that I was working on and helping give back to women in the community.
Having role models is something that it's easy to overlook if you have it, but it is so underappreciated. If you have someone to look up to, someone to be like, you know what, that's what I aspire to be. That can be a powerful thing. That can be something that can be the difference between quitting and just settling for, whatever you can get, or just settling for, oh, well, I guess I'll just step into my role, or stepping into something that could be great. So stepping into greatness and really believing and committing to making yourself more than what you think you can be. That can be very powerful. That is great work.
What would you say, or what does the area look like now? Did you kind of making some stance and some changes change the narrative at your school? Do girls have the opportunity to be president now in that high school? Do you know?
I'm happy to report that there are females allowed in leadership opportunities at the high school that I went to, and all the way up from student body president to the principal. And I know that they've made some much needed changes, and I hope that they continue to work on that.
That's awesome.
That's a great story to tell. There needs to be representation at every level, so I'm glad to hear.
Couldn't agree more.
What do you think is the biggest missing piece in leadership today?
I think that people realize it's less about being in charge and more about how you can help serve those around you. For example, the office that I currently work in here in Washington, D.C. is undergoing a reorganization from top to bottom. And it's been interesting for me to watch these people that I work with step into new leadership roles that they haven't had before, that they're perfectly capable of and have all the skills and knowledge that they need to be successful. But to feel uncomfortable in that role and to see them like maybe be more harsh at things or have more of an authoritarian tone when they respond to a subordinate, and things that just have been completely out of the ordinary that for their character and personalities, that I know because I can tell they're uncomfortable with this new position. And I think it's an interesting phenomenon because also here in Washington, D.C., there's a lot of imposter syndrome. I know that the women in the city talk about this a lot, where you walk into a room and you feel like you're not qualified because you haven't gone to the Ivy League school, or maybe you don't have as many years of work experience, but here you find yourself in an incredible leadership opportunity. And I think it's so much less about being in power and being in control, making yourself look good, and so much more for working as a team and making sure that you're pouring back into the people that work under you. And then if you are, for example, the chief of staff to a principal, someone like the head of an agency or the CEO of a company or a member of Congress, making sure that your goals align with that principle to make everyone on the whole team look good and make that place a great place to work.
One thing that we've talked about on our podcast a few times is the importance of the difference between like a leader and a boss. And some of the behaviors you're talking about is a very boss behavior. Like, I'm in charge. You're going to listen to me. We're going to do what I say. Leadership is serving others. It's hey guys, we're going to go in this direction. How can I enable you to accomplish this goal? How can I enable you to be what you want to be, and how can I support that? But a lot of that requires that personal character, that integrity, that has to be integral to what you're doing. So what does integrity leadership mean to you or to lady leaders? So how does integrity play into being a leader?
Integrity means to me that I am the same person behind closed doors that I am in front of people. And I kind of look at it from all aspects of life. My personal view is that you, especially as a leader, integrity is you wouldn't ever do something, you wouldn't ever be not willing to do something that you ask someone else to do. So like a good example that comes up frequently is cleaning the bathrooms at the place that you work.
If you're the leader, not a boss, you need to make sure that whatever you are telling people that work with you to do, that you would be just as willing to jump in there and do it with yourself. And sometimes it is important to do that yourself. And I also think it's so important that a person of integrity looks inward to see where things might be going wrong, if there's a problem, whether it's at home, a relationship, their personal life, at work, and adjust like what you can control, what might be going off with your character or your mindset before you look to anyone else to blame it on anyone else. That is one of the biggest things that I learned over my 8 years competing and holding the title of Miss Arizona. And I'm so grateful for all those experiences, because I know that had it not taken me so many years and me having the year that I had with the guinea pig year of new Miss America, and then also COVID shutting things down, then this weird interim of, you don't really know what's happening, so we're going to take a break from the national competition. If I hadn't learned all those experiences, I would not be able to be successful in an environment that is Washington, D.C.
That's awesome.
That's amazing. We hear you're a huge New Girl fan.
Huge.
I love that show.
Me too.
Me and Lily are like, my wife Lily and I have like watched that show so many times.
Yeah.
We have a new segment on the show called What's That Moment, where we ask our guests semi-obscure questions about their favorite show or movie, just to see how big a fan they really are. Are you ready to answer some questions?
I'm ready.
I'm going to be testing myself when we do this
I
too.
know.
Like, how good am I at this show?
When I was putting this together, I was like, I didn't know that. Okay, good to know. Question number 1. Where does Jess find the guy's roommate ad at?
On Craigslist?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
1 point.
1 point for Jess.
Yes, 1 point.
In the Spider Hunt episode, Schmidt hopes to impress his new girlfriend Fawn with one food item that Nick was good at creating. What's the name given to the specialty food?
The sauce.
Oh,
The
man.
sauce. And the number of things that goes into the sauce, like as I watched that, so I'm like, there's no way this is going to taste good.
And then who is it? Jess is stirring it for a bit. And he's like, what did you do?
Yeah, you got to stir. Like, you always have to keep stirring it. Like, you can't stop stirring it. I was like, oh, man.
Yes.
Oh, man. And that's like the one thing he can cook. Like, everything else in his life is terrible. It's just falling apart, but the sauce. Oh, man. All right, that's 2 points, right?
Yeah, 2 points.
Nice.
2 out of 2.
Nice.
Next question.
Which country did Winston play professional basketball in?
Oh no, that's a good one, because I don't think it's a real country. I want to say like, oh gosh, like Lithuania or something. I don't.
Very close,
Very
judges. And we'll give it to her.
Yeah, Latvia.
Latvia.
Oh, Latvia. Oh no, Latvia is a real country. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
I didn't know they had a basketball thing. I don't even know if they actually do. I don't know if they just did that for the show.
It's possible.
I'm going to have to Google that later.
Latvia. Well,
Oh,
and
that
I'm
was
never
good.
going to remember that. It's okay. You don't have to give me that point.
Oh, man.
Next question. What is the name of Cece and Schmidt's daughter?
Ruth.
Ruth.
She is so cute, and I love that she hates Nick, like for no reason at all.
Oh yes, it's the best.
Oh,
She's the cutest. Last question. What is Nick's favorite song?
What is Nick's favorite song?
His favorite
Yes.
song.
He plays it at Schmidt's would-be wedding when it's to
Oh,
Robbie.
yes. Oh my goodness, and he like pumps his fist.
Yes, I
Oh.
love that. That's the best.
I do not remember what it's called, but I know the scene because he asked Jess to come sit in his car just so they can
And he's-
listen to this song.
And he's like pumping it. She's like, "Your fist pumping."
Wait,
He's like,
Cotton
"No,
Eye
I'm
Joe!
not."
Cotton Eye
Cotton
Joe.
Eye Joe.
Cotton
yes.
Eye Joe. Oh man.
Yeah, and
That's
they
awesome.
redid Cotton Eye Joe again in like a super hype dance theme. So it's like even more hype than it was before.
No man.
Oh man.
They should have had Nick or the guy, Nick the actor, do the music video for
They
that.
totally should
That
have.
would have been amazing.
Well done.
It's
Yeah.
funny.
You did good.
Thank you.
5 out of 5.
I'm gonna go listen to Cotton Eye Joe after this now.
There you go. Well, thank you. We really appreciate you spending this time with us.
Thank you so much for having me.
Before we go, is there anything else you'd like to add? Anything that you're going to be working on soon?
I did just launch my Lady Leader site. It is ladyleadersempower.com. And through there is a bunch of different resources that anyone can reach out to get connected. There's a book list on there. There's my booking form on there. There's an opportunity for you to become a mentor for a particular field that you're passionate about, want to give back. Once things maybe get more certain with the pandemic, I'll be holding in-person panels again, which is where I invite women from different fields and different sides of the political aisle to share their perspectives and give their wisdom to the next generation, which that was one of the biggest things that I did as Miss Arizona that I'm going to be continue doing and to continue growing that business as Lady Leaders.
Very nice.
That is amazing and great work that you're doing. We are proud as Arizonans to kind of be from the state that you were, born in, you were raised in, and that you represent.